Train by day, Kyle Wigginton podcast by night, all day.
Junkuhn.
Junkuhn, I know this. I saw it on Instagram.
Junkuhn, Junkuhn. Well, it's not pronounced properly, but, to make it easy for the lazy people.
Axel Junkuhn.
Yeah, hi.
How do you pronounce it properly? Go ahead and pronounce it properly.
Junkuhn.
Oh, Axel Junkuhn.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's
dope.
Yeah.
So what is that? Where are you from?
Berlin.
Okay.
Born and raised, formerly in the western part. So, before the wall came down, surrounded by it on the island.
So you were there before the wall came down?
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah, it was like, that was my whole everything, childhood, until like 89.
I don't know much about history, so.
So yeah. And then, things changed.
I think it's the downfall with the world right now is people don't know enough about history.
Right?
Yeah. So they're just letting it repeat itself.
Oh my God! Yeah. Oh, what a point. Yeah. True.
Yeah. So we don't. So Axel, he comes to. He's a regular at the bar, but he works at the bike shop down the street, and he's got some dope bikes. And I think it's cool what you guys do around the city. You guys are actually you do these bike tours, and you take large groups of people and you ride around and you're getting people active.
Okay. Let me correct you. There's a couple of things. So I don't work in the bike shop down the road.
Okay.
I work in a bike shop in the French Quarter, Bicycle Michaels.
What are you always doing here then?
Well, I used to live around here, and also the city is tiny, right?
It is.
It is. I mean, for me, it really is tiny. Like the borough I grew up in back home is half the size. Well, it's more than half the size of Hall of New Orleans.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's a borough 1 out of 15, which used to be 18, but they combined the smaller ones after the wall came down. So it's now 15 boroughs. And the one I grew up in is the second largest one, which is about 2/3 of New Orleans. Physically and also in terms of inhabitants.
Right,
so,
people.
Yeah. So, this city for me is like everything to me here is like a spit away.
Yeah, it really is though. Like if you go to really large cities, you see how freaking massive these things. Like it takes an hour to get anywhere, but this city right here takes 15 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I used to go from where I grew up in the very, very north to the, basically very south to one of my grandmothers on a bike when I was in my early teens. 11, 12, 13 years old, all the way in kilometers. I don't know how it translates to miles, but in kilometers, it was 16. So probably about 10, 11, maybe 12 miles one way to see one of my grandmothers.
It's a long way.
As a little kid, through crazy traffic, trucks, whatever. It was just normal to me. It was just oh, wow, that's where Granny lives, and I'm going to stop by and she's going to give me some pocket money and I'm going to eat some cake, and you know what I mean? And
yeah, no, that's a different lifestyle than we're used to over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially even where I'm from. I'm from a really small town in Arkansas. Hey. So my whole family is when the stone's throw away.
Hey. Yeah, no. So, I'm used to moving around.
What do you like living in a smaller city over a big city?
I mean, everything has two sides. So, I like it for certain things. But in the long run, I kind of crave the bigger space. So I'm here since now 6.5 years. And I'm reaching the very edge of I need to move on.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Why do you like the bigger cities better? Because I'm the opposite.
Well, I'm an explorer. I'm a gypsy by heart. I'm not really bound, to a place to start with. I lived in different places and I traveled a lot over my previous jobs. So I'm too curious, I'm too much to what is out there I can explore. And that even consists my kind of closer surroundings. So it's if I still wake up in the morning after a couple of years, it's I haven't been in this area, but it's still part of, the place I'm living in and it's easy accessible. I would go there just to check it out.
Yeah.
In the beginning here, I would just right over to Araby, like, and like, Saint-Bernard Parish or something. That's kind of like, oh, this is the edge. This is already where the city ends. Jeez.
Well, then it makes me feel good that you like to come back to the bar then, because it's obviously a cool place that you like to go.
Yeah. I mean, I know this place, like, pretty much since I live here. Like, the closest friend I made very early, and he introduced me when it was still the other bar, and so I'm like, I return here ever since. But also I like to escape where I live and where I run into, like, permanently people I know.
Yeah.
So it's part of it for sure.
Well, so what's your favorite place in New Orleans that you have visited?
Oh, geez, do I have a favorite place in New Orleans? I don't even know.
Then you haven't been here long enough.
Maybe, I don't know. Why? Like, I mean, is there a favorite place in New Orleans I've visited? I don't know. I like the lake area. I mean, I like water.
Lakefront?
Yeah, I like water. So, yeah, that's definitely something I can go on my own and just sit on the bench and just enjoy myself for like.
I bet that's a nice ride too over there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Totally. Lakefront area?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's some place I haven't been that much over to that area. Yeah, man, I love this little city. I guess for an explorer, this would be kind of there wouldn't be enough here to explore a lot. Like, where you plan on going next, if you plan on going somewhere?
Anything that has a subway, hopefully.
Okay, so it could be Chicago, New York.
Yeah, probably more like New York. I love New York. I have a very, very close friend I met actually in my hometown, funnily enough, years ago, and we stayed in contact. And in the early days, we had jobs that would bring us together at the same place at the same time, which was hilarious. And we always met up, and so that's something that resonates with me. Chicago, I don't know. Probably a little bit too hot winters. I grew up with hot winters. I have lived in Eastern Europe for a while, for quite a while, 5 years. So I can deal with it. It doesn't mean I love it. So, and Chicago is, pretty tough in the winter.
Yeah, you were complaining about the cold when you walked here today. So if you're
I know. Nah, it's not for me. It's like, even New York, it's like, I like New York, but then again, like the winter part, I'm like, can we cut this out somehow?
Yeah. No, I can't do winters anymore, man. I didn't even grow up in a place where there was hard winters, but I've been to Chicago in the wintertime.
Yeah, I know. I even only spent a 12-hour layover once, but it was over New Year's, literally over New Year's. And damn, the wind and everything is just, it's not so much the cold. It's more the gray. It's like, that's what gets to me. It's like, if you're in an area where it's like still sunny and you have a dry cold, it's fine. But cities just turn into sludge after the third day and a gray misery.
Yeah, that was my issue with Seattle. That's why I can't go back up there anymore. Like, there was no snow or anything up there, but it was overcast for the entire week that I was there, and I almost fell into a depression right there.
Right?
Like, when you come from a place where it's sunny all the time and go to a place like that, it's like, this doesn't work for me anymore.
Yep. No, I hear you. Like, you wake up in the morning and you look out of the window and you're like, nope.
Mm-hmm. Just want to lay here and stay in bed.
Yep.
So you were talking about the wall. That interests me a lot. Can you tell me something about like your early childhood with the wall being up and stuff, and how things changed whenever it came down? Because I mean, this is something I don't know much about it, and I don't know if I don't know much about it, then I'm sure other Americans don't know much about it either.
Oh, wow. That's a complex and long topic. I mean, like, for me, growing up on the so-called like island, Berlin West was normal, so I was not exposed to anything else but the situation that we had, which was like, it was a gigantic city, which was very livable because out of the situation, people had to take care a lot of their environment. So that means parks and green and recreational spaces, because we were like, enclosed like a small little island is. And and until you hit the water. And so we hit the wall, and it's like, oh, you can't go any further. So that was kind of like normal. And then when it came down, of course it changed a lot, because finally we could like easier, go above that without spending hours and hours of travel. Because before, I could move, I was like in Western Berlin, so I technically go to West Germany and like even visit the East with complications and, long applications of visas. But it just made it all more accessible, like the surroundings. So like, actually like let's just drive an hour or an hour and a half, and we are at the lake or in the forest or, or in the next little village or something. So because the closest point at that time was like Hamburg, we had like one particular corridor of traffic where we could like, use by car to go to Hamburg. That was like, the closest kind of like, bigger city to visit.
To get through the wall, you mean?
Yes. Yeah. So like, the former like East Germany is like, we had Berlin had like 4 technically corridors, like 4 transit ways you were allowed to use with a car. And the shortest one to like, a major city, another major Western German city was Hamburg, which was about 4 hours. And then after the wall came down, that travel time, like, dropped an hour. It's like, it's like now like about 3 to go there because you can go just, the shortcut.
How hard was it to actually get through the wall?
Not very. If you have been from the West, it was easy because you could use those 4 transit ways. Otherwise, to visit the East was a fucking nightmare. It was like, one of the worst and most complicated ways of getting a visa, and usually only for maximum 24 hours and very rare exceptions longer. So like if you had related family living in the East and you needed to visit for like, let's say a wedding or a funeral or something, they made exceptions and you could actually stay overnight. So otherwise, nope.
That's so crazy to me.
They were too scared of... I think the main point of that was they were scared of the exchange of information because, they blocked themselves off, from the rest of the world of like, hey, don't let people know, like things could be different and nicer somewhere else. So it's like, I feel America is actually very similar to me.
I was going to say the same thing. I was going to agree with you right there. Yeah, I was going to say this is exactly what's going on today.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, like the whole propaganda about like the whole idea of, everything anywhere else is like subpar or dangerous or, people's stuff or whatever. I mean, I can't even think of all those crazy ideas that are coming up, but this is really like you're disencouraged to travel, right? So, and for example, as a European, it's the whole opposite. It's like you grow up and you're like, get the fuck out, see the world, experience, make your own choices. And here it's like, no, don't go anywhere because they will fucking kill you. They're like, people starve to death. This and this. It's just all like based on negativity to make people here feel they're like better than anyone else. And it just doesn't apply to the truth anymore. It's just, it might have been at some point, maybe like the first 15, 20 years after World War II, I was like, this grace glowing place, but hey, it fell apart.
Yeah.
And I don't say other places are, that much better, but like they all fall apart as well. But there's a crazy idea of like keeping people in house just by propaganda and like, ill talking.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You keep people working, like, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. You keep your slaves at their job.
Yeah.
And
you don't even within a goddamn nice salary job, which I, for example, also had here. It's like the amount of holiday days that are paid are so much lower than in any goddamn salary paid job I ever had at home.
Yeah. I've heard that about places. Yeah. That they want you to get out and travel. They want you to be a well-rounded human.
Yeah. Because it's about like, make your choice. It's like, and there's no restrictions. It's like, where I grew up, if I would make the choice myself to go to Northern Korea, I could. No one would hold me back because there is no threat to it that you leave and you believe this is the way you want to live. It doesn't mean that they agree with it, but you can make your own choices, truly. This is so considered like a free country, and it's so not. I still live here as well. I'm part of that whole system now, but I'm aware of it is not because the American government doesn't want you to go there. Why not? If you think do you think it's cool? Where's the threat?
Yeah.
I don't agree with it. I don't want to go there. That's not the point, but I can. No one is, putting the leash on me and go no, I have to pull you back.
Yeah. No, I have a lot of friends that they travel. They're teachers during the year, and they travel during the summers, and they travel to places that they're not technically supposed to go to just to see if it's really that way. And they're always telling me no, it's not at all. Yeah.
I know. It's so sad.
Well, what do you think the reason is that they keep putting out this propaganda?
The fear of, not being able to hold up anymore what there once used to be. I think that there was a time that America was really peaking.
Mm-hmm.
So that other, societies and cultures, along history. And they have such an urge to hold it with just no backup anymore, there's no ground to it anymore.
Yeah.
Even economically, it's not, great. And, a lot of industry has been lost. Look at cars in Detroit. It's I know very patriotic Americans. It's they love to drive a Toyota because it's reliable.
Very reliable. Yes. That's what I drive.
But at the same time, they're total rednecks, waving the flag and loving their guns. And it's no, but we're going to drive a Japanese car, the ones that fucked us.
Hey, for me, it's it's the cheapest alternative. If you want a car that's going to last you for a long time, you might as well go with the ones that are going to last. And that's the Toyotas.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
And they're made here, by foreign management.
Right. Yeah. Now so I think the real issue I think it's a cycle too. Everything works in cycles.
Yep.
And I think this cycle that we're in right now is basically the end of America. And I know a lot of people would disagree with me. A lot of people will hate that I say this, but if you look throughout history, you see that there's a civilization that has its peak time, right? And that's what you're talking about, the peak America. And then people get soft. And when people get soft, what happens is you have these corrupt politicians that get in power, and the corrupt politicians actually create a legislature that brings the country down.
I agree to a certain point. It's about convenience, and throughout history, there have been a lot of powerful societies and places, around the globe, that were ruling for a long, long time. Even parts of now the Arabic world, Northern Africa, they were oh my God, so advanced societies, cities, and you can find that all over the globe. And they had their time, Middle South America, the same thing, everywhere really. And it's about the moment a society achieves a certain level of convenience, which means everyone has a good life, is at ease, doesn't have to be too worried about, feeding the family, etc., etc. You become, I don't know if it's the right word, there's a complacency that kicks in. Yeah, kicks in. And that is usually the start of the downfall, because reaching that level is one thing. Holding it is a whole different, issue. And, throughout history, it's all about achieving that moment, which is everyone's goal. It's why would you not have an interest in your people, starting in the microcosm with the family? It's everyone is well. Everyone is well off. Everyone can eat, is warm and, been taken care of and da. And then you reach that point and then you're like, oh, this is nice. And then you lose it.
Yeah.
And so, it's a permanent fight. And then again, that is uncomfortable and no one wants uncomfort.
Yeah. No, it's a cycle.
Everyone wants to just lay back and be like, oh, I don't want to do much.
One of the good examples that I use to equate what you're saying is generational wealth. So you have someone that starts off and could be grandpa, right? Uh-huh. So he starts off and he has no money. So then he makes all this money throughout his life, working his ass off, going through the steps that you have to get there to get that money. Yeah. And then what does he do? He hands it down to his offspring. To make them have a better life. And then what do? They don't have to work for it. So
better
they just
education, better everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So they just they have everything handed to them and they don't respect it. Like the men who work for it. And then they get soft. So I was talking about when I say soft, they grow complacent. That's what you were saying. It's a better word to use. But they grow complacent and they end up either losing the money or they just disrespect the people around them that actually help them get the money.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the janitor. It's like, no, like he is keeping your goddamn fucking place, bug free. Yeah. So it's like, I used to work in, when I came here, I used to work in a music environment, but like, in a venue, but the venue was placed in a hotel physically. So, and I was exposed to a lot of that environment that I've never been before. And I also realized, like, what kind of like weird energy is happening there that people like really don't respect the people who like, in the night shift, let's say like, cleaning up the place. And I'm like, geez, like if they wouldn't do an incredible job, your restaurant, like your whole place would be, especially around here, shut down in a heartbeat because it would be bug infested in no time. So if you don't understand what kind of valuable work those people do, because you're saying like, you have a status, like you have a title, like, you come in the morning, like sitting somewhere in like a third floor office without windows on the computer all day. And you're like, you're better than the guy who was coming in at night, cleaning everything. Like if he wouldn't do that, you would not have that job on your fucking third floor.
Exactly.
Like, what the hell? Like, and that's like always bugged me a lot as well, because I'm not coming from that kind of like background, but that's going on a lot here as well. It's like,
it does,
you
man.
Don't respect that?
I don't come from that background either. My family, they respect everyone that shows them respect. If you're disrespectful to me, I'm going to be respectful to you. But it doesn't matter what job you have.
Yeah, seriously.
You're trying to make money.
Do a bad job. Like it would be bug infested and the place would be closed down. You would lose your job, period.
So when I meet people like that, the best way to do that is just to avoid them. Because there's no way you can't communicate unless you go through the ringers of life. You don't have that respect. So that's why I try to humble myself all the time. Like the one who cleans the toilets here, that's usually me, because I don't want the employees to have to do that. Like it's a respect thing, Yeah. Like they're here working all the time, so I want to do something for them. I'm going to clean this place and make sure it's clean for them. But I think that there's so many people that they just don't respect the people that are quote unquote beneath them.
Yeah, copy that. Definitely. I used to have a nightclub in Eastern Europe in Slovakia for a couple of years. And same scenario, I would do as well. Like a lot of stuff that people were just like not wanting to do respectively. As you said, I didn't wanted them to do it because it's like, no, like, I can't also like, I always feel like I can't literally boss someone around if I'm not capable of like, if it would come to a conflict, it's like, no, dude, I can do your job and I'm not afraid of doing your job. So like the moment I really ever had a conflict moment was in that when it comes to hierarchy, it's not because of being above them, but it's like, I can still bow down on my knees and do this. Yeah. I can still scrub the floors. And if you want to fuck with me, I will show you how this works because, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, have still that ground of being able to do that yourself. It doesn't mean that you don't need those people, but like, there's so many areas as well. Like when I started to work here, I was like sometimes really amazed about the fact it's like, wow, how much did you got away like lying on your resume, right? It's like you clearly have not done the work to be in the position you are right now and like telling other people off to do something, because if it would come heart to heart and they would drop you, you would not be able to fill those blanks.
Yeah.
So be always able to fill those blanks backwards, right? If someone drops you, that is true, you know. And then you can and only in that moment, I believe you can actually become a really respected, full-fledged leader, because people can mess around with you. You're like, okay, fine, I will show you how this works because I do it.
Yeah.
Right? You know,
that's what we need more in our leadership. I think that's one of the reasons that America is having issues right now, is because it's weak leadership. I think a lot of our leaders have been groomed for leadership positions, but they've never actually done the work to get to those positions. So for instance, I think that's a generational thing too. I think that if your family was in politics, they just automatically assume that their kids should go into politics too.
Yeah.
And it's like, just because you have a child and you're in politics doesn't mean your kid's going to be a good leader. It actually means the opposite in my mind, because your kid hasn't went through the steps to gain that leadership quality that you had.
Yep. No.
That's why I think America we have issues today, because we have weak leadership.
It's not just the States. That's the biggest problem.
Well, yeah, the world probably,
it's
right?
It's like literally, that's like global. It's not.
Well, I can't speak for the globe, though. I can only speak for my country.
Fair enough, but like I see that that is more like a global problem. You know, like there's exceptions. You know, I had friends back home who grew up from like family backgrounds with, you know, incredible. Parents in like power positions, and they still, when they were students, made them like, no, you got to work hard for yourself, right? But that has been always exceptional. It is usually, like you say, it's just like passed on. It's like, oh, I worked my ass off and I wanted to make it better for my, children, which is a beautiful and totally sensible approach. But at the same time, it's like, let them have their feet on the ground.
Yeah.
It's like you can provide all that, a good education, whatever, but also like at the same time make clear, like, no, like, you also got to work for this.
Yeah.
Like you have to understand the principle behind it, and, not stay above just because where you're coming from, makes you a better person or more knowledgeable or, more competent.
Yeah.
Because you're not.
Yeah, I agree.
You might be, but it doesn't come automatically. It's like you need to work for it.
Yeah, one of the things that really helped me with learning these things is I grew up in a really small town in Arkansas, and you're not really exposed to a lot of people there. You're not exposed to other people from foreign countries. You're not exposed to that many of the other races. But then coming down to New Orleans and being in a city where it's just like there's a cooking pot of like all the different races and people running from coming in town for vacations and stuff. Like you get to meet people from all across the world.
Yeah.
That really changed my outlook on everything.
Yeah. I get that. It's like, it's a problem we were facing, within the reunification as well, like, with the eastern part of, my home country and hometown, was the same scenario because Jesus, they have not been exposed to any truly different culture or way of living or, ideas or whatever, values, whatever you want to name, for literally 40 years. And then suddenly, boom, it just all like came over them, and it caused a lot of problems.
What, like what?
Well, like, a lot of just not understanding, like, like shitty, revamping racism as well as part of it, or just not understanding that there's different forms of life out there,
right?
Because they've been isolated within themselves and their ideas of values and living within society for like 40 years. That's a long time to like program you to like, oh, this is it.
What's a new generation of people?
And then, as you said, like, and suddenly all like the whole rainbow is flooding in, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. No, that's one of the things they say for like psychological programming people is you don't start with the adults, you start with the children.
Yeah.
So if you take children at a very young age and you start putting them through this new system, this new system of school, this indoctrination system, then whenever they get to be 40 years old, it's going to be hard for them to go back. So it almost takes a whole nother generation of people to come full circle.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, not everyone is able as well to like break out of that cycle. That's and it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, I'm coming from a background as well. Like I had to fight a lot to like break certain circles, and I don't claim that I broke all of them yet.
Right.
Oh, not by far, not by any means, but
at least you can see them. At
least at some point in my life, I came to this, awareness of like, oh my God, like I don't want to do this. I don't want to continue this. I don't want to do this, and I had to rebel like properly, and Well,
that's why traveling is such a good thing people need to do, because that shows you the differences in the world. So you're like, why am I the way that I am?
To me, the best thing that ever happened to me is like, doing that. It's like, I just decided at some point, it's like, I don't want to, by all respect to the information you can gain, and you should read books and, and all of that. But also like, watching TV, it's like, I was like, I kind of felt I need a more real experience for myself. It's like still, even if I, very literate and, I try to like gain a lot of information and talk to people. It is just still a different thing to actually go out there and experience it yourself.
Yeah,
it is. And one of the most beautiful things I ever did is like, leaving my hometown and country and like move to a different place with not much backup and, but a kind of like a goal, a plan. So yeah, I want to be there and kind of like, stand again on my own 2 feet. And it was an incredible experience. It was scary and very difficult for 2 years. But then, things switched around and I've never looked back since, ever, Otherwise, I wouldn't be also, for example, here, right now in the United States, because that was just a stepping stone of like, let's just, move on and experience something. And specifically in terms of the US, I was never a friend of it. I mean, I grew up as, I was born in like the late 60s, and in the 80s, I was an age that I was like, very rebellious, very, started to be politically conscious and active. And I'm like, fuck the US completely. Like as a European, that was like the worst time ever. It's like, the whole still like the end of the Cold War idea and, atomic weapons been like placed all over the place. And we were like, no, this is the wrong way to go. All right. Like we already have been interwoven at this time, at the same time, like economically so heavy, and then like still like threatening each other. I like it. None of that made sense to me. And I was just very aggressive. So I was never a fan. But at the same time, I was like, this is all information I am getting from media, right? I mean, like, that's what you do. Like, you watch TV, like, you see news, you read something, people who live in your environment talking about it. So there's all this energy, and, and the only way to break that is like actually go there and experience. Is that true or not? True or false?
Yeah.
It's been definitely one of the reasons why I wanted to come and be here for a while, because I was not a friend.
So do you feel like that changed your mind in the US?
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, 100%.
Because you realize that the average person doesn't actually want war and shit?
Yes, absolutely. At the same time, I place a lot of critique on not being conscious enough how much power you actually have as people. I still meet too many people that are not, complacent with what's going on in like greater politics. At the same time, they don't understand how much influence they have because they don't believe that they actually have influence because they think it's all about a greater power, which is not. If the common man doesn't support what's going on, nothing is going to happen.
Oh, say that again, but say it right here in this mic.
I said, if the common man doesn't understand that he has influence on, the greater power, that's like, I don't know how else I can help you. Like you do.
Yeah. How do you?
You have incredible power.
But how do you convince them of that? Because I agree with you. And I think I don't understand that mindset.
Okay, I stopped trying to convince people. Like, I have every now and then conversations like this one, for example, like with friends or whatever, or people I meet, in a bar, half drunk, which usually is
that's how
really
Axel and I met.
It's like not really efficient, but literally just by microcosm behavior. It's like, I vote with my wallet a lot, for example. Mm-hmm. I'm moved into like, I vote with my wallet. Mm-hmm. It's like, I do not pay or supply my economic power to people as much as I can. There's nothing absolute. Do I do things that, I know I supply something that's like, I'm not really happy. Yes, of course. It's not about absolute, but like for the most part, I do. Like I stopped, for example, 3 years ago. I haven't bought anything on Amazon in 3 years. Mm. All right. So because I realized that I can get all the products, even online, over other sources, usually the companies direct, forgot them the same price. The only difference is I have to wait a little bit longer for it.
Right.
So I created that patience of like, instead of getting it by Prime or 2 days, I might be a week or so until it arrives. But I cut out, the evil middleman.
I love that.
Like,
yeah.
So it's like small little things, and they do go a long way because it's like ants. Mm-hmm. If they all work together, it's like people the same. We have a lot to say.
Yeah.
No,
I agree.
And that's just like one mechanism, and it counts to so many other areas as well. It's just like start in your microcosm, start how you treat your friends, try to like, buy things or purchase things in your local shop, which I do. And I don't have much money. So that's the thing I like. I'm really not coming from any area, especially now since the pandemic, where I can like, throw around money, but still it is worth to me spending whenever I can $1 or $2 more and feed, for example, something or someone local. So
right.
If I can go to a shop and I know it's like, it's $2 more, then I will spend those $2 more because I believe that it is coming positively back to me.
Yeah. Dude, you're 100% right. I mean, even with this bar here, like, it keeps people employed. Like it might not be the most money in the world, but it's keeping people employed and keeping the neighborhood happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's every little piece of what's going on in a neighborhood is important. It's vital. Yeah.
Stores. Like I like my little like neighborhood, like little corner stores and stuff. Yeah. They charge a bit more, of course, than, your big mass market, whatever, Walmart, and I have to turn my penny around, but as much as I can, I will try to contribute to that because I also understand that in the long run, it is good for myself. Yeah.
That's why I love New Orleans, because there are little pockets of these neighborhoods that have like everything that you need. And like, I am sure other cities have this too. I just haven't lived in a lot of other cities, but where I grew up, it's you have like one market or something in your small town that you have. Okay. But here in New Orleans, man, there's like little pockets of everything, and every little pocket has its own little neighborhood area. Has its people that live there, has its restaurants in that area, has those little bars that are in that area, and everyone kind of congregate there, and there's like a little family.
Hey, yeah, totally.
Yeah, we that's another reason we do a lot of things here at the bar. Like for Thanksgiving, we do a Friendsgiving, because a lot of people in this city they don't have families. They're kind of like transplants. They come here for work and stuff like that. So when it comes to Thanksgiving, they don't have anywhere to go. So what we do is we open the bar up and we say, if you bring a dish, you get to eat.
Nice.
And people come in, they bring, we usually have 20 or 30 dishes here that people bring in. It's crazy.
Like a potluck.
Yeah, it's insane, awesome. Man. The amount of food that comes in.
Nice.
And everyone has their little get together. We usually play a movie for everybody.
That's very New Orleans as well. Like, like the whole, potluck culture is like generally American, but like I know a couple of bars that have that, going on. It's just like, certain days, like, I know one bar in the Bywater, it's like Mondays, it's potluck day. It's people bring like.
Oh, they do it every Monday? That's awesome.
Yeah. There's like one bar in the down in the Bywater, they do a Monday and it's like a potluck day.
That's
it's
awesome.
Like, you would like walk there on the Monday and just the whole neighborhood, everyone who's cooking something and has, a little bit more, just brings it around. And it's like suddenly it's this gigantic buffet. So
switching topics a little bit. You said that you're an audio engineer by trade.
Yes.
How did you get into that?
Oh, that's it started with my dad being an audiophile. Like he had like in the early 70s, like one of, we had hardly had furniture, but he had like this amazing stereo and record collection. So I was exposed to like music in a very young age. And then I grew up and one of my uncles, half brother of my mother, started a production company. And I was starting to like make some pocket money on the side while I was at school, helping him out, pushing boxes, rolling cables, that kind of thing, putting up tripods for speakers and just like helping out. And then it just caught my, more and more my attention. And I realized like lights and deco is not so much my thing, but like, the whole speaker audio thing. So I started to like, look over people's shoulders and asking too many questions. And until he one day threw me into the cold water during a production where I was just supposed to push boxes. And he just suddenly told me that I'm literally in charge of running this whole thing. And I was like, whoa. No. So again, a good thing that happened. And so I started to like, get into audio engineering and, was always interested in music and spent my early pocket money in my life on records. So,
So how did that first one go that you were running? Did you fail miserably or?
No, I was, God, I'm sweating. I was angry. I was a mixture between very angry that he did that to me because fuck. Sorry.
That's the best way to learn though, right?
Yes, it is. I hated him in that moment and I was sweating but he did it already at the point as well, being, conscious that like, no, he can, I just have to push him. He can deal with it. So, and it went pretty well. I was crazy. It was a reading in a church and it sounds so easy. It was literally one single microphone, right? One person just having a book reading in a church. But a church environment acoustically is incredibly difficult. And if you don't know what you do, even one open microphone, I mean, shit can just fly all over the place.
Right, get feedback everywhere.
Oh God, it's it's a living nightmare, and it pushed me, and it was incredible because it was difficult, and I kind of like somewhat managed,
I think it's the best way to learn. Like everything in my life that I've anytime someone asks me, hey, can you do this? Even if I can't do it, I say yes.
Oh, he was ruthless before that even, he was very particular about like coiling, audio cables, which totally makes sense in the long run because they're expensive. And if you coil them wrong, you damage them very, very fast. So, he would go on the end of a production when we wrapped everything up, he would open a big fat flight case and look at it. And if he saw, and he could see it just, not about messy, but just like cold twilled. He would just tip over the whole box in the morning, like after you had like a 12, 15 hour shift and you're like, I just want to go home. And he would like tip it over and right on the spot, do it again. Mm-hmm. He was really ruthless when it comes to that, which, it took me quite a bit to understand that. And right now, on the end of the day, I'm like, I'm thankful.
Yeah.
I'm thankful because I was just incredible, I was good because, I learned a lot, and I learned to like, you just do things proper from the start, because it saves you energy, time, and everything. It's like,
when equipment too.
It's like,
I think it's important to work with people like
German efficiency thing.
Well, so if you ever see me in here, as soon as this podcast is over, I have the boxes. I put everything right in its boxes. Yeah. Because I'm the same way, man. I know I work in film as well. So like this past weekend we were doing a film, and the guys that I work with, they're the same way. Like whenever everything is done, everything goes back in its respective boxes or its respective cases, and it all has a slot that has to go in. That way you either know where it's at the next time you're working.
Yes.
And you also know that everything is handled properly.
Yes. I was like this as well when I was here in the venue. Like I literally, like the moment something would happen, I was sick. And they had a replacement. He could call me, and I would be able on the phone out of my head to guide him to every single piece. And I mean, down to every single goddamn adapter, every specific cable, everything. Just, because my whole workspace was just like a graphic system in my head. And I would know, like this drawer, about in the middle, half to your left, you're going to find this and that piece.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it just makes it easy. It makes it easy to transfer it to someone else. And also like, my old environment was primarily live sound. That means you have no time and you don't have any ability to repeat anything. So either you make it work or you fuck up. There's only those two things. There's no like, oh, sorry, it went wrong. Let's just do it again. It's life. It has to be instantly.
Did you fuck up a lot?
Yeah, no.
See, that's impressive. I mean,
I did. Don't get me wrong. I ain't perfect, but comparably, no, because
you had your P's and Q's.
Well, because I learned that whole structure, and it's not just about the physical structure. It's also like the mental structures, like to know that you can't repeat something. So like troubleshooting within the show is like, it's about being fast and knowing like, oh, you have the feeling there might be a cable broken or this microphone gives out or whatever. And you just like open the drawer because all the shit you need is exactly there. You grab it and you run and you just change it out without thinking, and it's solved within minutes.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Without interrupting the show. It's like, and professional musicians in that moment know like, oh, we just, got to play over it. And you like, fix it. Just rip the old shit out, leave it in that moment on the stage, put the new one in, done.
Yeah, see, I wish
show must go on. That's the principle.
I agree with you on all that. And I think that it took me longer to get to that point where you're at. Because like for me, working in film, in the beginning, it was just like failure after failure after failure. And then you learn from those failures. And you're like, okay, well, I failed doing this one time. So that means I need a backup of this. Like I think one time we had batteries that one of the batteries went dead. It was like broken or something. So it's like, okay, when we lost a battery today, let's get a backup battery in case this ever happens again. So it's one of those kind of things. That's how we kind of like go through it.
Yes. And as I said, I probably was really spoiled with like having this incredible teacher, because my uncle, like, he went basically through all that.
Yeah.
And then already prepared himself to this level of like always having redundancy, and then passing that on to me. But still, again, talking about generational aspects, like he never passed it on as like, oh, I have learned all this and I'm not going to put you through shit. Because as I said, even like the first day he like really put me in charge, there was no preparation announcement. He like really dropped it out of the cold water, and he meant it serious. I thought he's gonna joke. I was like, yeah. It's like, no. I'm like, I'm going. Like here, like he connected me, to the event manager, and it's like, boop, this is it. You're gonna do this, right? So, he still with him going through all that, put me into the situation of like, no, there's, you got to do it yourself.
I think
I'm not just, giving you the silver plate.
Yeah. Well, no, he obviously made you work for it. If he would come in with the cables and tip the boxes over and stuff,
fuck yeah.
like he made you
many
earn
times.
that.
Jesus,
Yeah.
there was moments I hated him. It's like tired. I was like exhausted, and he was like, "No, this is perfect because what happens is you bring this back home into the warehouse, and then you have to do it. You have to do it at some point anyway again because this is not the way it can go out next time for a show, right? So do it right the first time to not waste your energy and time doing it twice."
Yeah. Now, I think those people are so important. Mentors like that are so important in everyone's career, not just it's really in anything you do.
Hey.
Like I've had some of the best people that I've ever had that taught me life lessons. Like my basketball coach in college, God, I fucking hated that guy so much. But now when I look back on it, I'm like, this guy was one of the best teachers I've ever had.
Right.
Like not even with just basketball. This guy taught me so much about life.
Right.
It's amazing. Like when you look back on these people, but so yeah, anytime I get a chance to learn from somebody nowadays, I'm like, what are you going to teach me?
Yeah, no, the same. Yeah.
I may not like you the whole time we're going through this process, but I know at the end of the day, it's going to be worth it.
Yep.
So do you take that same mentality over into doing what you do now?
I hope so. Yeah. I hope so. I want to be good. Like I started as an intern. And the reason I started as an intern there is because I was a customer. And I'm a very fussy customer. So it's like, I've been through like many places around and I was like, not happy with, I just was not happy with the quality of work and the quality of service and knowledge that I expected until I came across that place. And that's why I applied there. So, so I have a high level of expectation towards others, therefore also towards myself. Yeah. I'm far away from it. I'm still like in a very, very early learning phase of it, but like, I want to become good. Yeah.
I think it's a very humble way to be.
I love bikes. I mean, I ride bikes every goddamn day, no matter what weather it is, but
that's a dope bike right there.
I spent more money on my bikes than some people on their cars.
Yeah. You got some nice tires on that. Like, I don't know much about bikes, but that looks like a beast.
Yeah, it is. That's my nicest build I have. Yeah. I actually just did it like 2 years ago. So
is that the one you ride all the time?
Well, I have 3 and they're like, I have one beater. This is my nicest build. And like, I love to ride it as much as I can. The only issue I have with it is like, I can come to places like this because I can take it inside. So this is a bike I don't look up anywhere. Period. I mean, like maybe 5 minutes in front of a coffee shop while I still have one of my hands on it kind of thing. So, yeah.
So you said you have this one, you have a mountain bike, right? Are we talking about this?
No, I do not. Okay. I did a couple of mountain biking sessions, but
you grew up in my neck of the woods.
Yeah, my boss gave me a really beautiful mountain bike for that. No, I have, all my bikes are like street kind of like oriented and all like single speed. So yeah, that's kind of like my jam.
Well, have you ever lived anywhere that's that's outside of a city?
Lived? No. I only lived in cities wherever I've been. I lived in London. I lived in, Bratislava in Slovakia, Berlin. I lived in Hanover. I lived in Munich. So
what's your favorite place out of those you ever been to?
My favorite place I've ever been to?
Yeah.
Myanmar, Burma.
Yeah?
Yes, for
What'd you like about it?
I don't even know where to start. It's like, it was just the experience of just incredible everything. Humans, country-wise, the whole adventure, because it's, it is still like, it is one of the poorest countries on earth. I think it's in the top 5.
I heard they just overthrew the government or something.
Yes, I mean, not just once, several times.
I think it just happened again.
It's a disaster.
The military took over.
Yes, and it used to be a military run state for a long time. Then it moved slowly into a democracy, and then they overthrew. It's a clusterfuck. Right?
But you still like it. That's the best place.
Oh my God, yes, because it's politically such a clusterfuck with the most amazing human beings you can ever meet. And the country is interesting. And also because of all of that, I don't know, I'm an adventurer. And that was also like really a real adventure because I was not safe.
Yeah.
You know, and I still had, I spent a whole month there and that was amazing. And I want to go back. And even within all the hardship that comes with it, it's not easy traveling. You know, it's not like going there and like laying on the beach and it's like, oh, I'm here because things are cheap and the sun is shining. It's exploring, and it's been definitely the most amazing place I've ever been to, hands down. No question about it. I mean, there's not even anything else close to comparison.
Yeah.
And I've been so far in like 54 different countries.
That's crazy.
So
yeah, people. So for me, I don't like traveling at all. And I know that sounds crazy to someone who loves to travel, but I like to sit in one place and let the world come to me.
Yeah,
that's the way I like to be.
I know. I hear that a lot, and there's people like that. I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
Because the reason is, the person who comes to me from somewhere else, I just hear their story. I hear their side.
Right.
I like my side.
Yeah.
You know, I want to come and experience it and then see how I feel about it.
That makes sense. Yeah. For me,
Yeah,
I live in a first world country, obviously. What do you think? I mean, would you disagree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So what do you think we are now?
I don't want to throw around numbers, but geez, like, it's just such a high horse kind of like, you know, look at this goddamn streets. Like, just talking about.
Well, this is New Orleans, okay?
So it's part of the US, the fucking supposedly richest country on the fucking planet. And I have been in Myanmar talking about it, one of the poorest places. And I think it's in the top, not even top 10, I think it's in the top 5 of the poorest places on earth. There's a better street infrastructure than in this goddamn city.
Well, once again, this is New Orleans. New Orleans, I get it, is part of the US, but it's also the cities handle their own streets. If you go to a place like where
it's not even like the whole part of the South. Go to Mississippi, Alabama. It's a disaster.
You're talking about the deep South, yeah. If you go to Arkansas, I promise you.
You go over to the other side of the river here, you can discover a pure, for me as a European, it's still like mind-blowing how poor, literally poor, this place is just by crossing the river.
And going into the West Bank, is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's mind-blowing. I do pretty regular because I like riding out there. Mm-hmm. And wow.
Oh, is it that much poverty over there? I've never been over the West Bank.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, houses in conditions like blue tops, I mean, galore.
Yeah.
Like galore.
Okay. So I live in a third world country.
No, I mean, as I said.
No, but let me finish my point.
It's like, you're definitely on the top, not on the top anymore.
Well, no, let me finish my point of what I was saying, okay? Whenever I traveled, I came from Arkansas, right? So this is like me leaving Arkansas. And it's way nicer up there than it is here in New Orleans. And I know most people would disagree with that, but it's way nicer in Arkansas. The roads and the infrastructure is.
Yes.
There in Memphis too. Yeah. So I come from that and I go to Ecuador, which is a third world country. And I was like, I've seen a first world country and a third world country. Like everything else has got to be in between. So that was my whole purpose for not traveling more. I'm like, now I just want to meet people and hear their stories.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yes, but no, you're right, man. Like the infrastructure in this city is bad, but that's also, I think it's because of weak leadership.
And there's a large portion of like the country, like, Arkansas, of course, it's amazing. And you know, there's pockets, it's the same with cities, you know, and there's also like, there's a lot of wells around here, obviously. I mean, you know, still technically really like one of the wealthiest places, but the distribution of it is so heavily unequal. It's mind blowing. It's the same with infrastructure. You have like places like this that are completely falling apart. And then I hear like, oh yeah, but it's built on jelly. It's because we are in the swamp. It's like, really? Like we are like in 2022, like we have technologies to do that. It's like, the highest building on the planet is built on the softest sand there is.
Yeah.
Okay. Burj Khalifa.
Yeah.
It's like, we have all that. And talking about the West Bank, funnily enough, you go over there, and that's the reason why I like to go over there riding, is because the street conditions are so much better than over here. Way better. How is this possible? The swamp didn't just stop there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yes. I mean, to one excuse, it's a little bit less traffic with, heavy trucks and all that.
Well, no. So what do you think the issue is in New Orleans?
Politics. It's like, things just going into pockets.
So we go back to the weak leadership.
All the money disappears into nothingness instead of coming back to the common man who lives here.
Yeah, I think we go back to the weak leadership, right?
Yeah, it's like...
The point of being corruption and just weakness.
It's like it's corrupt.
Like if you're a good leader, you're gonna make sure your people are fed before you are.
No, it's like here it's about like how can I fill my own pockets? But that's not just politics. It's like that's just embedded in the culture around here. I know even people who are not involved in politics, they all have the same thing. It's like, oh, I'm okay as long as my pockets are full.
Right.
That's it.
What's the ultimate solution here? I mean, I see the problem too. I think a lot of people see the problem, but they don't really know where to even start. Like how would you deal with that?
Caring about yourself, which I believe a lot of people don't do here. Even within the families, it's like I think there's a lot of lying going on. It's like, oh yeah, I love my children, but then you have school shootings and no one is doing anything actively about it. But then you claim you love your children, but at the same time you love your gun more. Or like your gun laws, not just a gun. It's like, I don't oppose to guns, but like, have a license for it. Actually make sure that the person who owns one knows what he's doing with it, know how to store it in its own house. So, got them, 11, 13, 15, 18-year-old can't access it and cause mayhem. So don't tell me that you love your offspring, not taking care of things like that. It's just, for me, it's just a big lie.
But so you think that those two topics are related?
Oh yeah, very much.
How is that?
Because it's about taking care of yourself, actually like really, taking care of yourself. Mm-hmm. So if you take care of yourself, you want to have a great infrastructure. You want to have children playgrounds. You want to have a functioning swimming pool, and you want to have a functioning library and a functioning school, and you want to make sure that, yes, within your society and your amendments, you have the right to bear arms, but you want to make sure that actually the people who do also carry a responsibility. So if something happens with that, you should be held accountable. Like you should have a training. There should be, it's the same as like driving. It's like, a bad driver passes on shitty driving to his son. It's like, because there's no one who ever corrects that behavior. It's
so
like it just passed on.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm in agreement with you, but the argument's been posed to me before, this right here, that yes, all those are problems, but if you make people's living conditions so poor and so shitty that they're going to be struggling to survive rather than thinking about these other issues. What do you think about that?
It's true. I mean, it's just an extended kind of like way of, slavery, literally. It's like, like you put someone in the pocket of, a miserable condition, and like, of course, nothing is going to change. They're not going to like raise above it. And there's, the people who are in power like are scared to share that, because if you educate your people, that might threaten, your corruption.
Yeah.
They might be able to finally see through you and do actively something about it. So you make better sure that is not happening.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much the world we live in today.
And again, it's not just the US. It happens globally. It's not just purely an US thing.
That's what's so impressive to me, is that this is it's so well organized that it's a global issue now.
Yeah, it is.
Like
We're also so interconnected, economically.
Yeah, for me, like, I run this business and I do some other stuff, but I mean, that's a lot for me, So I'm like, how in the fuck can they be so organized that they're running a planet? That's been for me, waking up to like all this like corruption stuff. The biggest thing was asking myself, where are we going as a species? Like you see all these different parts that are moving all the time, but it's like, what's the ultimate goal? Like, where's all this moving to? And when I started asking that question, no one had any answers for me. And I'm like, hang on a second. Like, so where are we going with this?
I don't know either. I don't have an ultimate answer to that. I just personally think we're like too many people on the planet. And then you still have crazy people who are like, let's just make more people. And I'm like, no. Like,
I think we hit 8 billion yesterday.
Don't force someone. Like if you want to have kids, fine. Like there should be no restriction. But at the same time, if you choose not to, it's like the one thing that planet doesn't need is more people.
Yeah, I think we actually hit 8 billion yesterday.
We do not need more people on this planet. If you personally want to have offspring, nothing wrong with it. But, don't restrict people who don't.
Yeah.
Just don't play fucking God.
Have you heard? So I've heard like Elon Musk speak about this several times. I didn't really understand what he was talking about, but then I heard someone go into deeper depth on it the other day, talking about China's population. You know how they were limiting people and having kids, like you only have one kid.
Because Jesus, they're like got them one.
But what he was saying is that they're fixing to enter a very, very dark time in their population, because what's going to happen is their workforce is going to get older and the workforce can't work. So then the way they depend on the older people, they want the younger people to pay their income tax, which actually supports the older people. But since they were limiting
generational contract,
but they were limiting people on having kids. So now they're entering into an era where they're going to have so many old people and not enough young people to support them.
Yeah, I mean, any change is always causing, some sort of like discomfort or, like a period of, not being perfect. And that's just it. And that's also like a reason why so many people are so afraid of change is, you have to go through it. You're not going to go through a change without hitting a bump. Mm-hmm. Like you're just not. So it's like, it just all rolls back. Convenience. It's like, oh, this is comfortable. So we're going to continue doing this.
Right.
Because, like the moment we hit uncomfort, it's like, we step back. And any kind of change is always connected to discomfort. It's a change. It's like, you have to restructure, you have to rethink, you have to, redo something, you have to reset values. I understand, back home they claim the same thing. It's like, the generational contract. It's like we have too many old people. We don't have enough young people coming after. Like basically, paying for their pensions and stuff, because it's like, it's a rollover system, generational contract. And then everyone claims that there is not enough young people coming through taking care of the old ones, yet our population is rising. Like, how does that work?
Right.
That's also something I ask myself. It's like, there's this claim. It's like, oh, it's not enough kids to take care of the elderly. But at the same time, the number is going up and up.
We hit 8 billion. Yeah.
And
so
it's like,
it's a good point.
Who in stats here, like who in mass is like, sleeping or like, what are we told?
Yeah.
I totally get the generational contract. And I think it's like, at the base level, like, a beautiful thing. It's like, I mean, thanks God. That's why we have, decent health coverage back home, because everyone is happy to pay in a pot that not always you as an individual have to be the one taking, out of it, but like you pay in it because someone else can take advantage of it. So like when it comes heart to heart, he is not killing your pocket. You know what I mean? Like you permanently just a little bit all the time so that we have this big pot, and then someone in real need can take out of it.
So you don't have insurance back home? That's what you guys do?
No, I had insurance back home, of course. Yeah. I mean, that's just.
So you have insurance and you pay into the pot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is, basically like the pot is more for like pension. So like, for taking care of the elderly, if they didn't had like a great job and paid a lot. And so, there's like, there's a certain percentage when you have a salary that just goes into like basically a social pot, so, and people can take out of it. And I don't know. I mean, so far it's been working.
Nice.
Yeah,
I think that. So every time I'm talking to anyone about these issues, and they always want to bring up the words we already have, like democracy. I don't even know what the fuck all they are. Communism, all this shit right here. And it's like, why are we still bringing up words? Like, why don't we create a new system?
Yeah.
Like clearly some of these are having flaws. They have issues with involvement. So why don't we create something new based off the knowledge we already have? Rather than try to recycle an old system. That's why I think even our
good question.
I think even our democratic system works well. We just need to evolve the system. It needs to change.
Yeah. Well, you don't even have a democratic system. You have democratic ideas, but you don't have a democratic system. And that's also, the thing that I come across so many conversations and discussions here that I realize that people don't even know what those words means. Like they're just throwing around socialism and communism and like, in one thing. And like, you don't even understand the difference and what it actually means and what is actually behind it. And they don't. It's just, propaganda. It's like, oh, it's something we don't know. It's something we apparently don't have. So it's bad. Right. That's just the common kind of like energy and reflection I receive.
I agree with you.
With exception of, actually, confronting a conversation with someone really educated and intelligent, which is really rare. But for the most part, they don't even know the difference. They're just throwing it around as, that's a word of bad. It's like, like you're against us, you're a commie. It's like, oh, what does it even mean?
Yeah, like, just a disagreement.
What doesn't even entitle? So, but then again, yes, I am all about something new because even democracy, even in places that are even like actually truly more democracy, a real democracy compared to the US, because the US only have democratic ideas, but as a system in itself, it is not democratic. I mean, it is not like so. Creating something new, I'm all about it, but like, it scares a lot of people. It's like, stepping into the unknown. It's like, oh my God. Or it starts with admitting that you have been not perfect and flawless. Like, I think that's what a lot of powerful nations suffer from, is this like ability to like finally admit like, oh my God, we have not been perfect all along, but we told everyone for so long that we are so perfect. Like how do we gonna stand in front, of the mirror saying we are not perfect, telling everyone we are perfect for so long?
Well, especially this country. Like we're going to have a huge issue with this.
Yes, you have a gigantic issue. It's like, as I said, the great moment, it really raced into like, wow, yes, thank you, for like saving the world, which is also not really true because, the so hated side did so much more, contributed so much more to achieving that. But, you have such a strong propaganda and like media power that, you put yourself in this position of the world savior, not realizing that, then after that, your, Cold War enemy was just contributing to that whole thing so much more than you ever even remotely did. So it's a twisted kind of position. And then you tell everyone who grew up after that, that you're the best and everything is better and everything is, greener here, until realizing it's not. And then like, ooh,
don't let them travel. And then the cycle continues.
I really truly believe that one of the reasons why you're disencouraged is because a lot of people in power here don't want you to realize that exactly that this is not the end of the story. Like there's also other places that are absolute amazing and beautiful, and you can have a great life, and also it's about the individual. It's like, what do you want? Like, don't tell someone like, this is not the way to live. Don't police. Like, there's individuals out there that have whole different ideas of, let's say, quality of life. All right. They want different things. They don't want to have a driveway with like a fucking fancy car in front of it. They might just want to have, still an old school market next door where, the people from the surrounding country areas like selling their stuff, I don't know. I mean, happens.
That's why I like the market here on Ferret.
So, it's one of those things. It's like, it's complex.
it's everything's complex. And I think a lot of people don't even dive into it because it's such a complex problem. And I think it also comes with the struggle to survive. Like when you're struggling just to make rent, you're not going to worry about what the government's doing. Yeah. But that's when you should be worrying about it, because I think that's part of the reason you're struggling to make rent.
Also, at the same time, even with struggling, even here with certain areas, like let's say paying rent or whatever, on the grand scheme, there's still a high level of convenience. So that's it. That creates complacency. It's like,
in this country, you mean?
Yeah, there's still even, struggling. You still like pick up your phone and it's like, you get your food to the door.
Yeah, struggling in this country is not struggling.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's still all those things. It's like, you're out and like about and like ride a bike, let's say, and I look it up. It was like, I'm way ways to go home. There's still so much comfort. It's like you're wrapped in a comfort zone. Yeah, you're wrapped in this.
That's why I still call us a first world country, just because those conveniences that we have. So. I do realize the infrastructure is kind of like broken, but we do have a lot of this, like these comforting this stuff that just like brings food to us whenever we want to. That's where the first world aspect comes in. Yeah, but I think we're quickly going this way. Yeah, we'll see how much longer those things even stay involved. Yeah, no. In what we're doing.
I don't know.
So Axel, any final words of encouragement for everyone out there?
I don't know. Stay true to yourself. Live to your best ability, and microcosm. Like if you believe in something, just don't go out and don't what is it called? Preach. I don't believe in preaching. Like I used to be like that when I was in my teens as well. Like when I became politically aware, I'm like, hey, people have to do this and this and this and this, and just live by example. It's like just go live by example. It will influence enough people around you to like make a change. That's what I believe these days.
I love that.
Like, don't preach.
Yeah.
Don't preach. Just live and live it your way. And if you take someone with you on that road, great. If not, fine as well. It's like,
Axel Junkuhn, everyone. Thank you for coming today, brother.
Thank you for having me.